honor to have with us as our keynote speaker for this special evening, Pete Buttigieg. Pete is a former two-term mayor of South Bend, Indiana, a graduate of Harvard University, an Oxford Rhodes Scholar. Buttigieg is enlisted in the U.S. Navy Reserve and became a lieutenant when he was deployed to Afghanistan in 2014. In April 2019, he announced his candidacy in the 2020 U.S. presidential election, a bid that would have made him the youngest president in the U.S. history. Despite emerging as a top-tier Democratic candidate, Buttigieg suspended his campaign in early March 2020. The child of two college professors, Buttigieg excelled academically. He was his high school valedictorian and matriculated to Harvard University as a history and literature major. After graduating in 2004, he became a Rhodes Scholar at the University of Oxford and graduated with a BA in philosophy, politics, and economics. On February 20, 2021, Buttigieg was confirmed as the President Biden's Secretary of Transportation. Besides his native, this is the impressive part actually for me, guys. Besides his native English language. Everybody's quiet, huh? He has fluency in 7 additional languages: Italian, Maltese, Spanish, Dori Persian or Dori Farsi, Arabic, French, and in his spare time he learned Norwegian. And be careful what you guys say, right? So please help me welcome to the stage Pete Buttigieg. So for me, I would say, ahlan wa sahlan, you're welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Ahmed Jamani, for the warm welcome. Thank you to the Chamber for welcoming me. Yeah, I'm good. And thank you to all of you for the warm welcome. If you don't hear me speaking much about my day job, that's because I'm here in a personal capacity. And I just want to mention that because it's important to me to speak to you about an election that's coming up very soon. But it's also important to me to speak to you to celebrate the contributions of this community to the region, to my newly adopted home state that I married into recently, and to the economy here. So I'm so pleased to be here. I want to thank Executive Director Faye Badoun. I want to thank the staff, the Board of Directors for having me. And of course, I'm honored to be with Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist. We've had a great day together, traveling to many places. I've been with Jocelyn Benson, Dana Nessel, your governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who I admire so much. I'll say more about that in a minute. I'm also a very, very big fan of your congressional delegation, including your phenomenal senators, Debbie Stabenow, who is here, and Gary Peters. I see at least one member of your House delegation here, my friend Debbie Dingell. I hope no one is in any doubt about the direct connection between their leadership and their votes and the extraordinary economic gains that are coming in things like the bipartisan infrastructure law that is benefiting every part of not just transportation, but water, internet, and so many things that the state of Michigan and the American people need. That didn't just happen. The last administration said they were going to do it. Lots of people had said they were going to do it. It's actually happened, thanks to these phenomenal leaders, and I'm proud to call them friends as well as colleagues. And I'm proud to belong to a state, Michigan, that prides itself in making space for everyone. No matter where you're from, how you worship, who you love. It reminds me of the spirit that dominated my military unit when I was deployed. When we went into a vehicle getting ready to go outside the wire, nobody ever said to me, I just need to know if you're when your father immigrated to this country, if he had his papers or not. Nobody ever said, I need to know if you're going home to a girlfriend or to a boyfriend. Nobody ever said, I need to know what party you belong to. We cared about whether we could trust each other with our lives. And I think that actually reflects where the entire American project is, and it is a spirit of inclusion and trust that I see and that I know has been celebrated by this organization since its founding and by this community in ways that we need to spread across this state and across our social and political culture. The Arab American community is such an important part of that. Michigan is home, as you well know, to the highest concentration of Arabs outside of the Middle East. A community that drives Michigan's economy with businesses, large and small, like those being honored today, each of them run with pride. So many of the members of this community serve in our armed forces, make sacrifices for this place that we love and call home, are educators, doctors, public servants, faith leaders, and serving at such high levels. 99 of the governor's appointees are Arab American. And she appointed 7 Arab American judges in her first term. And I know that the entrepreneurship and the public spiritedness that is in this room reflects an appreciation of the importance of leadership. Now, Ahmed flattered me a little bit with using the word fluency, which is a very dangerous word to use for somebody who enjoys studying languages but is barely fluent in English some days, especially when the kids keep me up at 2 and 4 in the morning. But I do want to mention I have a little inscription on my desk in a piece of stone. I had it made up after a saying that I heard once in my travels, and it reads, "Ma kulli man yarkab ala al-khayl khayal." Which, if I can dare to try to translate that into American Midwestern English, means something like, just because you see somebody go by on a horse doesn't necessarily mean that you're looking at a knight. And I have it there to remind me that whatever title is bestowed on me doesn't necessarily mean automatically that I'm doing the job. I think it's important for us to keep ourselves humble that way, but also to make sure we keep our leaders accountable that way. Not every president presides, not every governor governs, not every leader leads. Not everyone on a horse is a knight. Which is why I wanted to make sure to be here today to share my admiration for Governor Whitmer. Somebody who has convened and governed, not just in the sense of telling people what to do, but in the sense of gathering people to do big and important things. And at a time when some scoff at the idea that anything could get done on a bipartisan basis, I deeply admire the fact that she has signed over 900 bipartisan bills, led the best economic recovery in Michigan history, cut taxes for small business owners, invested over $400 million in local businesses to support and retain jobs, increased tax flexibility, and ushered in the fastest small business growth rate in more than 2 decades. See, the low unemployment that we're experiencing right now didn't just happen, it took leadership. And confronting the inflation we're facing right now will not be something that happens on its own, it will require leadership. I cannot help but notice there are some people who are interested in addressing that problem, and others who are simply interested in mentioning that problem. So when you hear people talking about issues, be it inflation, immigration, safety, any of the challenges that we face, that we should face together, I hope that they will be pressed, especially by influential leaders like the people in this room, on whether they are simply mentioning a problem because they think it might benefit them politically, or whether they are coming to the table with an actual solution that's going to help. That, I think, is going to make all the difference. And that style of leadership is helping us get big things done. For example, we've had a problem with the availability of chips and with the need to bring more manufacturing back to the United States. And the governor, along with the senator and the congresswoman, have been key supporters of the CHIPS Act that is bringing down costs and already helping to create manufacturing jobs in the United States. support for childcare that is going to be so important to our social and economic growth, including launching the Michigan Tri-Share Childcare Program, access to free preschool for more kids than ever before, and a $1.4 billion investment in childcare to expand access, support businesses involved in this, and support professionals who are so needed. Whether we're talking about healthcare, whether we're talking about education, and yes, when it comes to education, what is most needed is not a fresh culture war over what books we are going to ban. It is real solutions like investment in K through 12 education, which is exactly what the governor's administration has offered. Students aren't demanding more controversy, they're asking for more support. Teachers need funding, and they're getting it in this administration. Higher education, scholarships, some of the things the Lieutenant Governor was discussing, equality, so many things that have this state moving in the right direction. So I couldn't miss the opportunity to share with you why I took a day away from the official duties that animate me so much and that I'm so proud of, and that I hope in another context, wearing a different hat, I will have a chance to speak with you about, to talk about what is at stake in the choice that Michigan will be making just a few days from now, on things that in my view shouldn't be partisan. Yes, I'm here telling you why I care about one of the leaders running in that election. But let's agree that certain things once were and should always be beyond partisan dispute. Like the idea that when you run in an election, you agree to abide by the outcome of that election, whether you win or whether you lose. Or indeed, the idea that when political violence rears its ugly head in the United States of America, the only appropriate response is an immediate, bipartisan, swift, and unambiguous condemnation. Nothing else is appropriate in the face of that kind of violence. I'm most excited about the future because Chasten and I are now raising our children here. Our family depends on the future of Michigan. And I think a lot about the kind of future that we're going to have when my children are old enough to ask what we were doing in these tender and decisive years, the early 2020s that are going to set the course for our history in so many ways. I want to make sure by the time they are old enough to ask what we did to make sure that the climate was safe and clean for them, that we say that we tackled that climate challenge in a way that created good-paying manufacturing jobs here in the United States of America. I want to be able to say that they enjoy more rights and freedoms than my generation, just as my generation has enjoyed more rights and freedoms than the generations before. And not that 2022 saw the high watermark of rights and freedoms in this country. I want to be able to say that to my children. And most of all, and this is the other reflection I wanted to leave with you as such influential leaders in this community, in this region, and in this state, is that I think what's at stake right now is nothing less than the next step in American democracy. It's one of the reasons I'm so proud of America and so concerned about America at the same time. The American project has always been about building an ever more representative democracy. And yet the world has never actually seen a large-scale, multi-ethnic, multi-racial, multi-religious, fully inclusive, fully democratic and representative republic. We've never actually seen that go all the way. Humanity hasn't seen it. I believe that it can only happen for humanity if it happens in the United States of America. And I believe that it will only happen for the United States of America if it happens in our time. I believe that is what is at stake in the choices that we are making right now in these early years of this decisive decade. And what I'm most excited about is that when we have that kind of democracy, which I believe will be achieved in our lifetimes and will be as big a contribution to the world as the Declaration of Independence itself, that it will also usher in a society with a greater sense of belonging. Belonging that is what animates the search and the story of everyone who immigrates to the United States, as my father did. Belonging that animates, I believe, the goals of every worker, every entrepreneur, every student. That sense that we can create a society where all of us belong. And I believe in the move toward greater and greater belonging because I've lived it. Even at my tender age, I've seen a lot of change. When I was young, growing up in Indiana, The idea that somebody like me could ever belong in my Midwestern hometown. First of all, because of my name, Buttigieg, which, by the way, for Arabic speakers, is probably a Mediterranean dialect version of Abi Dajjaj, Lord of the Chickens. So that's where I was starting out. Already felt a little odd growing up. And that was before I even figured out that I was gay. The idea that somebody like me could find belonging in a place like Indiana, when just 10 years ago, the idea that I could so much as keep my job in the military if people knew who I was forbidden by law. Just over 10 years ago. Just about 10 years ago, the idea that I could even have a family and be married, let alone do so while serving in elected office in my Indiana hometown, was not just unavailable, it would have been considered preposterous. And yet here I am, choosing Michigan as the place where my spouse and I can raise our amazing son and daughter to live full lives in a society, a state, a community where I believe they will find belonging too. That's what we have a chance to build together. That's what all of this is part of. That is why leadership matters, and that is why I appreciate everything that you do to build belonging for all. So thank you for the chance to join you. Thank you for everything that you do for this community, and I very much hope, God willing, that we will meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Buttigieg. There's something fitting about the Secretary of Transportation coming to Michigan, a state that has been at the vanguard of providing transportation for not only this country, but also this world. So thank you, and yes, you do belong here. And if I can offer some unsolicited advice about having to wake up at 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning because of the kids, Netflix always works to go ahead and provide you with that gap of your sleep being lost.